Hi everybody. Welcome to MovieDive, where we dive into some shit.
That's an interesting way of doing that. Is that because we've been gone for so long?
Yeah. It's also because it's the fall and we're all in our fall depressive syndromes.
Yay.
Yeah, let's fight depression with Luke Cage. I'm Huffman.
I'm Sierra Madre. And today we will be discussing the Netflix series Luke Cage, which is a wonderful tale of a man who goes back in time. Nope, that's Dr. Who. Goes to Harlem to lay low, but then of course he ends up becoming a hero because that's what happens.
That's what happens in Harlem.
Go to Harlem.
Yep. So yeah, much talked about. New Marvel Netflix
for good reason
conglomerate. Yeah, for good reason. What you think? I mean, I know I liked it more than Jessica Jones, but you think it's better than Daredevil? I'll go there.
In some ways, it is better than Daredevil. My favorite part about the show is that they really create a sense of community, which you do not get. Like in Daredevil is just a man running around by himself. He's out there, he's trying to hide from his friends and everybody knows, and he's just out there fighting the good fight. In Jessica Jones is just a one-woman show who's basically fighting a villain who's just a person from her past. So it's a very personal villain, conflict that she has in that show.
Also with the more of the sexual assault undertones.
Oh, definitely, yeah, all kinds of sexual assault.
Than the civil rights, human rights themes in Luke Cage.
Well, because with Luke Cage, he not only doesn't wear a mask, so everybody in the town knows who he is, but he's fighting for his community. He's fighting for, and I mean, in a sense, Daredevil's doing the same thing. He's fighting for his city. But in Luke Cage, he knows the people that he's fighting for. He knows exactly the people that he's protecting. He's not a masked man trying to protect the masses. He's fighting for the woman, who runs his apartment building. He's fighting for the, kids that go to his barber shop. He's fighting for people that he knows. He's fighting for his actual community, which I thought was a very beautiful touch. It feels more personal than the overarching conspiracy that's possibly going on in Daredevil now, or not conspiracy, but prophecy, sure. A thing that's being wrangled by all outside, overarching forces. No, Luke Cage is fighting the dirty politician who's right down the street. He's fighting for, to keep his actual street that he goes down every day safe, for the kids that he sees every day. That's what Luke Cage is fighting for, and I thought that was great. I thought that was a great part of how they did that show.
And I actually, I have to add, the way that comes through is really interesting because the way that the show makes it feel real is by sprinkling the whole thing with little I want to say cameos from the neighborhood, actual people that actually live in Harlem that show up along Luke Cage. I mean, not just the characters,
but you mean mean cameos like real people? Yeah,
like real people. So the main villain for a time, Cottonmouth, right? He opens a club in Harlem, right? It's a hip hop, soul, type of club, right? The performers there are all actual hip hop, R&B. Performer, actual people.
I don't think they're from Harlem, but yeah, it does.
Well,
the
actual
fact
actual
that they
people
are actual performers, actual people, does lend a certain.
But then they're later on in the season, right? They need to dress Luke Cage up, and a dude shows up, a dresser, who they identify as Dapper Dan. That's an actual dude. I didn't even know that was an actual dude. That's an actual dude who has a shop in Harlem.
Oh wow!
That he actually clothes. People, celebrities, whatever, an actual guy. When the police detective, Misty, right? I forgot her last. She's supposed to be some kind of superhero.
Yeah, she's supposed to go bionic. When she got spoilers, just straight up spoilers. There's gonna be spoilers all over this. When she got shot and the bullet went through her arm, I was like, yes, we're gonna get a bionic woman. It's gonna be great, because I had read about that. I haven't actually read the comics, but I did, read some spoilerific type stuff. And but then they save her arm, and then we don't get that. We don't get the.
Well, there's time.
There's time for her to get her arm shot again.
Yeah. But to finish my thought, like when she goes and she visits like the kids playing basketball, like those are probably actually kids playing basketball. They don't cut away from the game. The game plays. The kids do their shots and their dunks, and they make them. Whereas like in other movies, they're shooting a basketball scene. There's cutaways constantly. They maybe capture like one move, but like in here, no, they'll like pan across the entire game as it's going on. Like, and I fully believe that those are like kids. At least some of them must be kids from like that are actually like around the area. And I think that like they actually went and actually like got like a bunch of those like little like community touches like all around in that show.
Yeah, I'm actually not sure how much they shot in Harlem. I do know that
at least it felt like it. I don't know. Maybe
it does feel like an actual place, and it does feel authentic. It does feel lived in, which
we should probably spoil the fact that neither me or you have ever been to Harlem.
No,
but to us outsiders, it does feel authentic. I would want to know what a person who's actually at least even like been there would say about that
just
show.
As a person who's ever grown up in a real place. I mean, if you felt like you were part of a real place. Luke Cage's Harlem feels like a real place where people have to live there and they feel like they would come from there. Because with Daredevil, I mean, for me, and maybe this is a whole nother thing. Maybe this is just my experience having grown up, having grown up in certain areas. Daredevil doesn't actually feel like he's from Hell's Kitchen. Hell's Kitchen doesn't ever really feel like a place. It doesn't feel like a place really that's threatened or that feels real. It just feels like people talk about it and people are from there, but they don't actually live there. If that's a thing that makes sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a place that you see people walking around down in the street or anything else. Hell's Kitchen is just a place where bad things happen and Daredevil has to like fight people. Whereas Luke Cage is like sitting up here in the barber shop and, going down to, the restaurant. And these are, there's like a club down there. And these are real places where people have to go, where people have to live.
True.
And they even say that, there's several points in the show where they say that even if Luke Cage succeeds or if he, if he keeps fighting, people still have to live there. People still have to go around, and be around him while he's doing this stuff. Whereas you don't really see people around Daredevil. And you sure as hell don't see people around Jessica Jones because she's just by herself.
Yeah.
She's just hanging out by herself.
No, it's true. And I guess thinking back to it, like, I mean, there are those scenes where, they're like out in the warehouse or down by the docks or, down in some dungeon. But, yeah, like a lot of the show does take place, like, in
Is this Daredevil you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about Luke Cage. Like,
Luke Cage.
It takes place on the street, in the parks, at the local club, like a bunch of just like around town, like recognizable locations where, like these characters, and they will routinely like, there's like a bunch of like these, actually like a bunch of these characters who are, recurring like characters, like just residents down the street.
Yeah,
like,
people who live there.
A bunch of those, yeah.
Which, I mean, you don't get just because of the vibe that Daredevil is, and you don't get that in Daredevil's things. You get his clients, and you get him. And you barely ever really get his clients. Like, you just get him kind of leading this kind of solitary life where he has to hide himself away. So that's one thing.
Yeah.
That I thought that Luke Cage had that,
sure.
that I really liked.
The atmosphere is just big ups for Luke Cage because, like, I think that a lot of these, like, especially when we're talking about, like, superheroes, like, a lot of where they are, it's always, like, we're in, a penthouse or a headquarters or whatever, and they're always feeling just kind of, like, detached, like, floating off in some, like, spaceship, like, battleship, command station cruiser that they're always in, and they get dispatched to some area to just, like, blow shit up. And Luke Cage, like, here's, like, a dude who's, like, granted he's superhuman, but you see him, like, tear down, these doors or walls that he would have been, like, living in just, like, a few minutes ago. So, yeah, that kind of like level of atmosphere and community, I guess, is like really well like set up in there.
I would also have to say that I really, really liked the performances in the show. The writing sometimes falls off, and it does, like, I'm not going to say that the hamminess that comes into play sometimes is bad.
I think it's super cheesy most of the time.
I don't know. I mean, because whenever Shades appears and he's just wearing his sunglasses, and sometimes he takes them off for dramatic effect.
Just to say a line.
Yeah, just to say a line. And then puts them immediately back on. That mess is corny as hell.
Yeah.
But I'll take it. Like, whenever Luke Cage runs around saying Sweet Christmas, it's ridiculous. But I'll take it because the people in it are so good. And
where the God, I keep forgetting his name. Marshala Ali?
Marshala Ali.
Yeah.
Mahershala Ali.
Always
whom I love.
Yeah, he's awesome. Remy from
House of Cards.
House of Cards, yeah.
And the father from the 4400. I've loved him since the 4400. And as soon as I saw him in this show, I was like, yes.
No,
give that man more roles.
Absolutely amazing actor with like a lot of range too. But yeah, when they have him up in his room, like in the club, and there's a Biggie poster in the background with a crown, and they're always framing this dude in front of that Biggie poster, so the crown is like on him.
Yeah.
Like every chance they get, that's like a level of ham that we get like throughout the show.
That to me, that's not as hammy as Shades running around in this. That to me is more.
There's degrees. It's definitely.
I don't read that.
They
as
explore
ham.
the full spectrum of ham. I think in this.
I don't read that as ham. I read it as more like, I think that they would do that seriously. I think that you could do that seriously, and I took it.
The show is serious, but it's that kind of like.
The only thing that bothered me with that painting thing was spoilers again. This is just warning, because like, if you haven't seen the show, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you need to change your life and see the show right now, and then come back and listen to this.
Is that a recommend or?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a recommend. No, I remember I told my mom, I was like, okay, so you might not like this show, but you have to see it. And I mean, you really
to your mom. That's
yeah. No, you really do. You really do have to see this show.
Show it to your parents, everyone.
Yeah, it might not be the best thing you've ever watched, but it'll be a hell of a ride. Like, just watching it. But anyway, spoilers. That's the warning. Spoilers.
That was the warning.
You've been warned. After they kill off Cornell, Cottonmouth's character, and they take that Biggie poster down and replace it with a King and Queen poster, that's when it was like a little bit too far for me. Yeah. That's when it was like, you're pushing this a little too hard. You guys didn't have to do it like that. But every single time they framed him in front of that, I thought it was more, it wasn't just him being the king of the town. It was him trying to put himself in this role or something like that. It was more, it read more poetically than hammy to me. Mm-hmm. Like them trying to show something more visually than them being, ridiculous.
I mean, honestly, when I say that it's hammy or too on the nose, I do not say it negatively. Like there's definitely other movies where this would have been a criticism, but I really believe that it works here. Like it has that kind of like playful, sort of like on the nose tone throughout that it like maintains. It's consistent in this tone. It never gets so dark and melodramatically serious as Daredevil. Like it treats its I believe that like Luke Cage like really treats its melodrama with kind of like I don't want to say like a shoulder shrug, because it cares. It cares about deeply. It cares about its melodrama, but it also takes it in stride with resolve. Even it doesn't. It doesn't ruminate on it.
What do you mean by melodrama?
Like the character relationships, like when people die and stuff.
But what do you mean by that? Because melodrama implies that it's not, that it lacks a certain depth to it.
No,
there's drama and then there's melodrama.
What I'm talking about is just the tone in which it handles it, because it's profoundly like different from other works. Like I mean, when we talk about like, I don't know, just like, again, we're comparing it to Daredevil and Jessica Jones because they're like the same
canon,
I guess.
And
but
they're also produced by Netflix.
But you know what I mean. Like, when there's something serious happening, you get like the serious tones. You get like the little slow motion effects. You know, we get like the close up of the character like breathing deeply before yelling some like no like type shit. The way that the Luke Cage treats these moments is just different in the tone.
In what way?
It like they play jazz, or they'll play like blues music, you know, instead of like just ominous tones or like ominous synths. Just the whole tone of the show is just kind of like more. I don't know. Like it's like a smoother like feel to it. It's different. I don't know. It's different.
I think
you tell me, like, because I think that you know that it doesn't feel the same way when this show does something. When somebody gets shot in this show, and it's like dramatic, they play it differently.
I would say that they do, one thing that you should really note about this show is the music, because the music of course is going to be, well, not of course, because they could have done it differently, but the music in this show is very different because they're trying to make it black, which it's undeniable, and a lot of people I think got salty over this too, because the show is very black. It's very. The musical guests that they have in the club.
I've read some discussion. We should go back to it. Yeah.
People are like really being nasty over the fact that this is, a black show. It has a black superhero. They're being really nasty about it. But yeah, it's gonna have jazz cues or rap cues or blues cues or R&B cues, whereas other shows wouldn't have that just because they're not reaching for that. But as to melodrama, to me, melodrama as a term speaks to drama that lacks depth, and that is very far from what this show is. This show, more so than the others, just because, and this might be just me coming from my background as a black woman, but this show has depths that aren't really overt in the show. Well, I guess, and actually, no, they are probably overt in the show. Because, for one example, they have Luke Cage running around in a hoodie. And not just a hoodie. He's got the hood up. And at one point in the show, when they show that he's bulletproof and he keeps having to replace these hoodies because his clothes keep having bullet holes on them, he's a black man who cannot die. And they show him getting shot, and they show the bullet holes in his hoodie. And at one point, it becomes an emblem of support for him.
Like a statement. Yeah.
A statement to have bullet holes or holes in your hoodie and wear that hoodie around. And it's like this idea of blackness, you can't take it down. You can't tear it down. You can't kill it. And that's a big theme in this show. And that's not melodramatic to me. That's not lacking in depth. That's the deepest message that I've ever seen presented in one of these superhero shows. Unless we're going to talk about Jessica Jones and the odd implications of a villain who can control your every thought, who can control your every deed, and you losing your agency through that, including, him basically raping this woman for however long he was with Jessica Jones.
Well, I thought that
constantly.
We didn't do a review of Jessica Jones,
no, we didn't.
Jessica Jones was very, like, in my mind, it was very overtly like about like rape and about like relationship abuse and about like the dependency that develops like inside of like abusive relationships. Yeah, which I really liked. I really liked the villain and the implications of the villain in Jessica Jones. That's really liked. But also in Jessica Jones, I love Luke Cage, and that's why I'm glad that they made this show about Luke Cage, and especially the way that they made it, because there's many ways that they could have done this, and it would have been just some typical superhero show where he's, dealing with the villain of the week, or he has to go fight this big boss with overarching, schemes on whatever environment they would have put him in. But no. And maybe they're working from the comic, of course, I don't know, but they take the villain, and he is just a man who happens to have a lot of influence over this community. And then they take from him, they have this, he's partnered up with this politician who is also like, doing some really just dirty stuff in this community. And then after that, they have this other villain who Luke Cage actually happens to have a personal relationship with, like really personal relationship with. And then he's doing like, he's producing these weapons that could have far-reaching consequences for all, what do they call them?
They call them something else. I forget what they call them. Metahumans.
No, metahumans is a DC thing.
Whoops.
DC calls
them
metahumans.
My bad.
What do they call them in there?
Oh, sorry.
Mutants or others or
no, they can't call them mutants because of
they can't
licensing.
That's right. Fox would sue them. Okay,
yeah, they can't call them mutants. They call them something else, but I can't remember what it was. And I'm sorry about the metahumans. Yeah. Don't kill me. But anyway.
No, this is super important, and you should
some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so.
How do you actually feel about that? Because they, unlike the other superhero shows or movies or whatever. This show is pretty fast paced. Like,
I love the fast.
They go through this show has 4 overarching villains. So it has Cottonmouth that we start out with from the beginning, right? Then we have his cousin, played by Alfred Goddard, who is
Alfred Woodard.
Goddard.
Alfred Woodard.
Woodard?
Yes.
Did I fuck that up?
Mm-hmm.
I fucked that up, everyone. Alfred Woodard, who is amazing. She's absolutely
amazing in it. I love the way that she emotes.
Or the way that she talks too.
Just original.
It's kind of like really heavy, but also kind of casual too.
She's beautiful in every way.
I've never heard like a character who's supposed to be like a high profile politician and a power woman call a dude. Like she says dude like a bunch of times, and I was like, this is awesome. Like she actually like talks like a human being. Brilliant. So it goes through her, and then we get to Luke Cage's brother, the villain Diamondback.
Spoilers.
Who I don't know who he's played by. I don't know that dude.
I don't know him either.
I don't know his name.
But I love his face.
Never seen him before, but he was like very like a hilarious presence. But they just kind of and then they have Shades, who is this
Shades is a sidekick, though.
Well, he's the main villain in the prison, right? Or
no, he's not even the main villain in the prison. He's just the dude that he remembers.
He's an interesting character because he maintains continuity from like Luke Cage's past, and then somehow gets transplanted into Cottonmouth's gang, and then gets transplanted to Alfred Woodard's, who plays what's her name? It's
Mariah.
Black Mariah, right?
Yeah.
And he plays her like he becomes her love interest in the end.
It's weird.
Yeah, and so he kind of like hops from dude to dude. Like, I don't know. There's something going on with that guy.
But he's more of a sidekick. I don't even think he's as big. He's not really. I mean.
But he's a sidekick to every other villain that we encounter.
I know, and he does have his own. Just kind of moves. He does have his own agency. He's less of a sidekick than like some of the other sidekicks. But he's still. It's still kind of, to me, it goes Cottonmouth, Mariah, and Luke Cage's brother. Diamondback.
And then, like, Mariah again, who...
And,
proves to be wily.
Oh, man. She's got some wiles. Shades he's a very powerful side figure, but it's not like saying, okay, so Luke Cage is the hero, but he's got, like, sidekicks. He's got sidekicks. Yeah. He's got, what's her name? Played by the lovely Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
He's got the detective.
Claire, is that her name?
Claire.
Is it Claire?
Yeah, it's Claire.
All right.
And he's got.
She actually, even though she's had like her roles in both Daredevil and Jessica Jones, she seems to be setting up as the main like sidekick to Luke Cage in this one.
Love interest.
And / love interest. Let's hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
This is easily like. She plays the same character, but she's a lot more involved in this show.
She's more fleshed out and involved in this one. Yeah. I mean, for goodness sakes, they introduced her mother. They give her like a whole life. She's not just the chick who's around to patch up Daredevil and worry about his safety. She doesn't have to worry about Luke Cage's safety at all. So like, she's totally free to be more involved in the story and his life now. I would like to talk about the writing because I feel like I will love on this show for forever. I will tell everybody in the world to watch this show. But one thing that did kind of bug me was sometimes the characters sound alike.
Okay.
They only do it sometimes. Like, they're very good with trying to make these people sound authentic. Like, I like the one part where Misty is talking to her boss, who happens to be sorority sisters with Mariah. So she's like, you've got this connection with her. But they don't say sorority sisters. They say soror. which is, a thing that you would actually say if you were familiar with somebody being a sorority. They use, kind of more personal, more involved and realistic, fleshed out terms like that. But one thing that they do say a lot, and it kind of bugged me because I think they have 3 different people saying this at one point in a couple of different episodes where they'll be like, keep so-and-so's name out of your mouth.
Yeah.
Which is a thing that you can say, but like use it as your piece de resistance, your cherry on the cake. You don't have everybody saying, keep so-and-so's name, keep my son's name out your mouth, keep so-and-so's name out your mouth, keep my name out your mouth. Like everybody says it. Everybody says it. And I'm like, you don't even have this many people saying this in like a week if they're in the same area. Like, why do you have everybody saying this in the last like 2 episodes?
I've probably never said something like that in my entire life.
Well, that's you.
Yeah, it's said a lot. I see what you're saying, yeah. But
it's a very authentic and realistic thing that people would say, but I don't think that it's a thing that you would say all the time and that several different people would say to mean the same thing. You would have different people saying different things, especially if they're saying it in this like in different areas, if they're different people, but they got everybody saying the same damn thing, and I'm just like, oh. Or sometimes I don't know, sometimes they're just a little corny. I mean, mostly it's good, and I think plot point wise, and we should say that it does move pretty quickly, whereas other shows would feature Cottonmouth the entire series, or maybe they would go from Cottonmouth to Diamondback, and that's where the hell they would go.
I was fully expecting
him to be around for like the whole,
especially because of how like they really go deep on his character.
Yeah.
We get like an entire like flashback episode for him. We get to explore his ties to the community as he was growing up. Like, we know he was like hanging with the barbershop owner, Frankie Faison, who dies really quick in the beginning, but we get to see like his relationship and in like that weird like 3 degrees of separation from like Luke Cage himself. Like he's as entwined in the community as anyone, and he goes pretty quick. I think halfway through how long is this season? 13 episodes.
Yeah.
5th episode, they kill him.
Yeah, he's gone. He's straight up just gone, and like the most surprising way too.
Yeah.
Just for example, they kept Vincent D'Onofrio's character on Daredevil around.
He's still around.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's still around, but I mean, he was still a driving force. He was still the thing that they were trying to thwart. Mm-hmm. That whole series, it was pretty much him. Like, he was pretty much it. I think they bring in the Punisher.
Yeah.
Or whatever, and the Punisher. Oh shoot! Am I making a mistake? Was he the first? Was Vincent D'Onofrio the first villain?
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin was the entire. He was the entire arc of the first season, and then he's like a part of the arc of the second.
Of the second season, yeah.
Yeah,
so the second season they bring in more villains, but the first season he's it. He's what they're trying to get the entire time, and you get like moments where you think, oh, maybe they almost got him, but pretty much he's it. This one, they bring in one dude. Then they bring in the other dude and we follow them, and then they bring in another dude, and it's like you don't really see it coming and you don't really feel like it's slogging. The show just moves. It just goes from one thing to the next, and it doesn't feel like, oh man, when are we going to finally get to this matchup, or oh man, when is he finally going to get to resolve this issue. You don't feel like it dragging. It just goes. So in that sense, the writing is very good. The dialogue, though, definitely could have been better. I wish that, they didn't have these instances where people sound the same, where they just sound like, well, somebody wrote this as opposed to a character is saying this. So that they could have done better.
Speaking of recurring themes, let's explore the N-word.
They said that a lot.
They have a very specific, outlook on the characters, like saying nigga over the course of the show, where they specifically attribute the word to the villains, and the villains are the ones who are throwing it out most of the time. And they have a dialogue about it, right? In the show,
Luke Cage.
In the very beginning, where Luke Cage is not fond of the word, and they specifically, so as a good guy, you can't say it. The barbershop has a swear jar where you can't swear inside the barbershop, and I think that also extends to their racial epithets. So I don't know, how do you feel about because I felt like that was kind of I don't know, coming on strong. That only the gangsters and the bad guys will use the word, and the good guys do not.
As somebody who doesn't use the word, it's not that I believe that in a scholastic sense, you should be able to say the words nigger and nigga. Mm-hmm. I think that you should be able to say the words. I don't use them.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised to use them. To my knowledge, and I mean, this is just most of the time that I heard my mother or my father speaking about other black people, they never used those words.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up in a household, really where it was like, you have black people and you have niggas. Mm. Like that's some people's households. Like that's some people what's the word? Delineated along those lines, where you have, the good black person, and then you have these other black people that you identify with that word.
Yeah, and that's the kind of politic that the show seemed to kind of like.
Not necessarily.
Run, right?
This show had the. And I would have to rewatch it to know who said what when, because I'm not quite sure. I'm not convinced that the detectives didn't ever say it. Ever.
I think one of the detectives was white for most of the time. We know he never said it. The Misty, I don't think she said it that often unless she was like maybe angered specifically.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know who said what.
Luke Cage only uses the word once in this tirade about it.
Yeah.
Cottonmouth says it all the time.
Well, yeah.
Black Dahlia says it all the time.
Well, yeah.
And all of their henchmen say it all the time. And
but what I'm saying is
and his brother insults him with it all the time.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that I'm not exactly sure if they used it in there's black people and then there's these, lesser black people designation, as opposed to just using it as
not lesser, but more like the morally corrupt.
No, what I'm saying is that I don't know if they used it in that two-person, that two different people sense, or if they just used it to describe black people, just period, just any black person. Which I feel like Luke Cage's point was, I'm not going to use that word to describe any black person.
Yeah.
That to me that's not a word that you use to describe a black person. And I feel like the villains and a lot of other people in the show were using it just to describe any black person. That's a different thing. But
that definitely that is a statement that the show makes.
No, it is a statement.
Just giving the word to like the entire again moral opposition of the show, the villains of the show. Like they're characterized by because the show doesn't just drop it casual. It's not like Tarantino, where it's just nigga this, nigga that, like all over the movie. But like in the show, they're very specific about it. Like only the villains or like someone who is like on the wrong side of the law, let's say, only they're the ones who will throw it around, and very specifically so. And like Luke Cage and like his group.
Well, what I'm saying is that I don't necessarily remember. I don't remember if Misty didn't say it. That's what I'm saying. I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember because I'd have to rewatch it.
Well, it's not like whether she said it at all, but she definitely doesn't throw it out. It's not just like in her vernacular as a character.
Well, my thing is that if you're a person who says it, period, you're a person who says it. But
yeah.
I don't know if it makes sense. I can't remember if only the villains say it. I know that that the villains are the ones who say it. That I do know, but I don't know that Misty never said it. Mm-hmm. If Misty never said it, then yeah, they're definitely making this statement. But here's my thing on the word. I myself never use it.
Yeah.
I don't think in that term. It's not like a conscious choice to never use it. It's just not a word that I would ever want to employ.
Yeah.
And it's not a word that I ever think. Mm-hmm. If you get what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying. I guess it's just like because like racial politics are like at the heart of the show, and like they make a lot of statements about racial politics.
Well, yeah,
America.
and honestly,
and like this is one of the ones that they make, which is like super touchy for like a lot of people, and like so I don't really know. As a ignorant white dude, I don't know like how people might feel about like the way that they're using the word, because like I know. There's like people who think that it's like
totally fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine to just use it and throw it out wherever. But like that's not the way the show.
No,
feels.
and so I guess as somebody who doesn't think in that word and doesn't use that word, I actually liked that they made that statement. I actually liked that Luke Cage was going, I'm not the sort of person, I'm not going to use that term. I don't think about myself or, the young man who was using that word. I don't think about you that way. I'm not using that word. I'm not going to use that word. But then after they make that statement, they have other characters using that word all the time, just blithely, just throwing the word all around. And that, to me, I'm not going to lie, I did have a reaction where it made me uncomfortable. I did feel like...
Well, do you think that there was a dissonance between, like, the show's, like, stated outlook on its usage versus, like, the way that the show actually used it? Is that what
It's a two-sided thing because, like I said, this show was very good about being authentic in its dialogue. They were really trying to encapsulate black speech to make these people sound like people. Yeah. Like to sound like real people who would actually be here, be there. Real black people use that word.
Sure.
Tons of real black people use that word freely, just, whenever. But for me, it felt like it was a lot. But that's coming from a place where I don't ever use that word. Yeah. I'm very sensitive to that word. I'm not a person where it like comes naturally where you would think about, oh, this nigga right here. Like that's not something that I think or say. Yeah. It's like an extra layer that has to be put on, put on. I have to remind myself, like, oh, that's how people actually talk. This is how people actually refer to one another. It's not a way that I would ever refer to somebody else. So I don't know if it's used in excess in this show, which I felt like it was, but actually in reality there were probably other people who saw it and were like, yeah, that's really how people, that's how people really talk. And I actually keep that in mind, and I take that into consideration, because even though I have this knee-jerk reaction where I'm like, ooh, like every time the word is used, I'm like, ooh, just like a little bit like, oh. And but other people, probably hear it and they'd be like, yeah, that's how people usually talk. That's how I talk. So whatever.
Well, there you go. Yeah. One down that racial street.
What?
I don't know. I'm just white, so I don't know what to say about it other than.
Well, you brought it up.
I did. Well, I felt like it was important to bring it up.
No,
because they brought it up too. Again, because this is the kind of like, I guess, culture that they're exploring, that they had to bring it up. And so, I feel like it's worth discussing because, like you said, you're sensitive to it. I feel like probably a lot of people are sensitive to it, whether they want to admit it or not. So it was interesting to have, a show specifically come out and state it, because, other shows and movies that explore, the same kind of, culture, explore the black community, they don't usually make statements.
Yeah, they wouldn't have people say it, which is...
No, they'd have people say it, but they wouldn't have people actually, specifically talk about its usage.
Yeah.
Whereas this show really kind of seems to want to go and talk about it.
I think that this is a show that... And this is a very interesting thing, and this is what I love, is that you can make a superhero show, and you can make a superhero movie, and it could just be about the origin story of that superhero. It could just be about them, defeating some villain, and maybe they get a love interest, whatever. We've got that. Marvel's got that on lockdown for the past 10 years and the next 20 years. We're good. This show is very specifically exploring the black community, exploring the journey of a black man, trying to really express this is what would happen exactly with this black character. And sometimes maybe they might be a little too overt with it, but it's really they're trying to be the show for this, for the black community, which you don't really get that with a lot of shows or a lot of movies. This show specifically, these are the issues that we're facing today, and we want to explore them in this way. We want to explore, people who ruin their own communities. We want to explore the fact that there is violence against black people. We want to explore the fact that this is the way we talk about ourselves, and a bunch of other things that are all wrapped up in there, because there are a lot of little moments to this show that you would get if it was created by a person of color starring majority black people. Starring majority people of color. I think there's only what, like one white character in the show? Scarf?
Yeah.
Like, he's it.
Brett. Check out the big brains on Brett. He's a smart motherfucker. He also got killed.
Yeah.
I also think he does in every single like thing I've ever seen him in.
He's just one of them dudes.
He's just one of those guys. He actually did a great like job playing like the kind of morally conflicted rat cop who's just kind of trying to get by. But he was like effective in that role. He was just like, yeah, I want to do the right thing, but I'm also very disillusioned with my prospects of actually doing it. So maybe I can profit a little bit. Another
thing too, I like that no one in the show plays to a stereotype.
True.
None of them. Okay, I read this article the other day. This is not my own. I'm gonna be honest. This is not like the first impression that I had.
Source.
But once I read the article, I was like, oh yeah, that's a damn good point. His landlady is Asian. Yeah. Her husband's Asian. Neither of them speak in like some sort of like stereotypical, Asian accent.
Yeah. All right.
And they even make a point of that. Like, if you like the one character who runs in on their business, he goes, you came to America, you should, speak English. You should learn how to speak English. And the man goes, my English is great. Like, I am actually speaking English like almost better than you. Like, he's basically like, I speak English very well. So, get out of my face. Whereas in Daredevil, the only time Asian characters pop up is so that they can be ninjas,
True.
That's it. Like the only reason why you would have an Asian character in a movie is so that they can be a ninja or the wise sage, whatever.
Say Injun almost.
Injun.
Ninja.
And they don't have that here. Like, it's just a man and a woman trying to get by, run their own business, came to this country and just trying to survive, and that's it. I really like that point. I like that nobody, Alfre Woodard, nobody friggin' emotes or acts like Alfre Woodard. She's just this completely original being just out here just running around, owning her own stuff, and just being her, just out there just being her, and it's just wonderful.
No, honestly, I think she's easily the best actor in this whole show. Like, she really goes through like a whole range of like emotions while staying like consistent to her character in a bunch of like different sometimes awkward situations.
Well, she's got the pedigree.
Yeah, it's
if you've got somebody who's been working on their craft for as long as she has, that's what you're going to get.
There's a few scenes where and I wanted to get to the complaints later, but there's been like a few scenes that are just not particularly well set up or well written, or like the arc was not as believable, but because she was so effective, like she created so much just hate for her character that it was distracting enough from various plot holes or issues that
what
the
plot
show
holes?
We could talk about it. We want to talk about problems with the show because
I was already talking about problems.
Love the show, a bunch of problems
with the dialogue.
The biggest problem in my mind is that the show kind of covers the policing and the politics that felt very tough to buy sometimes.
In what way?
Specifically, the fact that her character gets away at the end felt very strange to me because it seemed like they had a bunch of evidence.
What evidence?
They had a bunch of like ways to put her away, but
what evidence did they have against Mariah?
But remember, she had the character witness who's like, and so like the lead detective's Misty's her phone gets stolen.
Yeah. And
then the Shades, one of the like the main sidekick that we've been discussing earlier.
Yeah.
Takes her phone and calls the witness to trick her to like meet him.
Yeah.
I remember, and we were like, wait. How did he get into her phone? Because she's a police cop who we assume would use encryption and screen locks, basic shit
that's a big
you
hole.
Would expect.
That one was
there's a big hole there.
In this day and age, you wouldn't be able to get into her phone.
I mean, there's a few things like that. I mean, like I guess it's a superhero movie, and we kind of expect that like science kind of goes out the window, but they still kind of have science where like. They boil Luke Cage in a vat of acid, and that shit goes everywhere.
Yeah.
And their equipment is fine.
Yeah.
Luke Cage is fine.
No, my favorite thing, and I mean, I don't
know.
Remember,
she had to. So in one of the key plot elements, right, is where they had the tank buster like it was like a bullet that they used that was able to drill into a surface and then explode inside of it.
Mm-hmm.
That apparently was effective on Luke Cage. They couldn't get it out of Luke Cage, so they had like a two-pronged approach where they would revert him back to like having his tissues be cuttable because they couldn't cut into them with a scalpel.
Mm-hmm.
So they dunked him in the vat of like the acid that supposedly created him to like soften his tissues up and get in there and take the bullets out. But it was like a really hot acid that should have like just decimated everything. They had like a little shot of like the acid like dropping on the ground and like burning a hole through it. But while they were cooking him in it, it was splashing everywhere.
Yeah.
There's wires everywhere that seemed like they could have burned through it. And then Claire, Rosario Dawson's character, cut into him while he was in that vat of acid. And it didn't burn through the scalpel or all the other shit that they put the bullets into.
They hooked him up to an EKG, I think it was, before they dumped him in there. The EKG survives.
Yeah, somehow.
The wires. And I was thinking at one point that maybe it's just an acid that breaks down flesh. I don't know. But then again, it did splash. If you're saying it splashed on the floor and
they specifically they established like the danger of the acid visually right before they completely break the rule that they established. And it's just like a bunch of stuff like that. I mean, at times where it's like he could punch someone really hard and send him into a wall, but not collapse all of his organs, or his lungs, stuff like that. Like there's some times where the solution to a problem would have been really simple by just having Luke Cage put his fist through somebody's mouth, and he just wouldn't do it. And there wouldn't have been like really a negative consequence to it because the guy was like a gangster that was like
but he doesn't believe in killing. Now, if you say
a lot of his community kind of crumbles around him while he doesn't believe in it, though, and it's much harder to when Batman does it. You kind of buy that Batman is sort of psychotic. Like, Batman is kind of crazy because, like, he just can't seem to get away from the fact that his parents were killed in just like a shooting on the street. Like, he just never moves on, And so he takes out that whole, like, rage combined with tons of money and privilege to just, like, beat on dudes and, like, maim them. And so he just doesn't kill them because he's just kind of, like, his morals are confused. It's fucking weird. With Luke Cage, it's just, like, he seems to be able to get everything in perspective, try to, like, move on with his life. But his life is pretty hard. He's being like hunted by, state marshals or like the federal marshals. I'm sorry. He ends up being in a lot of situations where it would have been easy to just shut up a dude, especially a dude who's done so much damage, like Cottonmouth, or like his. We later found out his like half brother. Both of those guys like just do a lot of like fucked up shit. Could have killed him. He was in the room 1-on-1 with them multiple times, and he doesn't do it, and it like becomes like very hard to watch eventually. Like we're forced to like buy into situations where that seem to have like a very clear cut solution that it doesn't take. That to me was like a big issue. And then like there's like little small parts. I think Daredevil didn't do like so many things better, but it did do combat better. There was very few cuts in Daredevil. Very few edits that in Luke Cage were all over the place. Or it's kind of like hard to buy him inside that space.
The artistry of here's the thing with Luke Cage. Luke Cage is just incredibly strong.
Yeah.
He's also a compassionate man. We would have to assume that he's got a good level of intelligence and he can figure stuff out because he was a detective.
Yeah.
But he's not this martial arts trained.
No, he doesn't. He's not a finesse character.
He's not going to be. You're not going to have. And I mean, it's not to say that you necessarily couldn't. Yeah, it's not to say you necessarily couldn't have some choreography, but you're not going to have the gorgeous fight scenes that you had in Daredevil simply because he's going in, he's wrapping folks up, he's knocking them out.
That's a very good point. Except that they could have just really shot the sloppy kind of haymaker fights, just head on. Just had a dude be punched in the face and just like have him get hit against the pavement and like
that's my bad. There's kind of artistry
like who was there was a video on the internet, you guys could look him up, but there's like a dude that does like video essays, and he did one on fighting, especially like in movies like Lethal Weapon or whatever, where it was like that awkward style of like we don't know how to fight but we're still trying to kill each other type of fighting that you can shoot it, and you could shoot it authentically and make it look real, which is not the way that they shot the fights in this movie. In this movie, it's just kind of, it's very like staged superhero-y. Like he's not himself choreographed, but when he punches a dude, he just has that wire effect where the dude just flies across the street and you don't really feel that impact. It feels kind of like floaty and magic-y.
I will
and
say
I felt
this
like
though.
that kind of put me off in some scenes.
I liked every time that he picked something up or bent something.
Yeah.
It felt real. When he picked up the washing machine, when he bent up the guns, when he broke the door off the car, it didn't feel like some sort of styrofoam or plasticky model that he was picking up. They always felt like they had weight.
Yeah.
And like they were real. So props to their props department because
the props,
that mess really was believable.
I like when there's like a few scenes where he's like bending like a gate and it looks like he's actually bending the metal. Yeah, and so it's weird that their special effects are very hit or miss. Like when it's fighting people, when people are shooting at him and the bullets bounce off, but they seem to just kind of disappear in midair. There's never like collateral damage from bullets bouncing
Really?
off of him. Not really. I mean, like there was a room. Remember when he's actually breaking into one of the Black Mariah's compounds, right? Where they've stashed the money in there. And the whole place is just filled with goons with guns. And they're all shooting at him in close quarters, and it's been established that the bullets would bounce off of him. But when they bounce off, they kind of like show that they sort of spray the walls, which is great, like a great effect. But then no one gets, everyone who seems to be in that line of fire never gets injured and stuff. And it's like the show, in these scenes, the show isn't so rapid where it like tries to distract you from these things. Like it's pretty dead on. Like, they're shooting him, bullets are bouncing off everywhere, but everyone is fine, and the building is mostly intact. And it's just kind of, it's things like that. I don't know. When like he throws a cop across the street into like a car, you'd think it would like just kind of cause some injuries or. No,
definitely. Every single time he hits somebody, and here's my problem is that he's supposed to be this hero who doesn't kill.
Yeah.
And that's great, But when you smash somebody's head into a wall, they're gonna get a concussion.
Yeah,
when you throw somebody down the stairs, they're probably going to get some spinal injuries. Like, people are going to get hurt off of this mess.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of scenes where these guys are dead. They got hit hard enough. Like if you get hit so hard that you fly like 15 feet, like your ribs are probably going to collapse from a hit like that. Like I get that like a lot of this is like a long tradition in superhero movies and shows where this happens, but considering how much respect they kind of like pay to like a real life violence in Daredevil, even it's like they've established that they can respect the fragility of human existence, and then in Luke Cage it just feels inconsistent. Like sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, and it's like it's kind of off-putting when they don't. I have to be real, even though again like I don't think it ruins the whole show.
Oh, definitely not.
But there's like these inconsistencies that kind of prop up and kind of like disengage you from everything.
Nothing that was like this show is as anything is obviously going to have flaws, but I loved it for what it was. It had this beautiful black man playing Luke Cage, running around, really trying to do work in his community, and then it had this greater message about trying to basically overcome what the world is doing to you. That you can
just contribute and build your own community.
You
and
can
I like
build.
That. Absolutely.
And you can build it in an honest way, because it's not like Mariah and Cottonmouth aren't trying to do work in the community, but they're basically, in the end, they're out for themselves. Which
it's a very cynical, they're doing a cynical approach,
way to do work in the community. Whereas Luke Cage is, down and dirty, really just trying to, and getting that example from Pops, just trying to do, be there every day and do, be a good example for them every day. Actually have your face out there. Actually put yourself on the line and not just do it, just for the money, not just do it for yourself, but do it so that other people's lives can be better.
No, like I said, I think overall the show is actually pretty fantastic. I think that I really like the fact that it takes a different tone overall. That's a lot more kind of, a lot more like black, but also just like, like upbeat and kind of it doesn't like grind on like the severe like depression and self-loathing that, again, in contrast, Daredevil and Jessica Jones seem to just
Jessica Jones is
absolutely
all about
swim
the
into.
self-loathing.
Like
Jessica Jones
he's definitely
was self-loathing.
A lot of the characters in this show are very like forward-looking and not down on themselves as much as like the things that they're trying to do. So
it was very upbeat and warm, when it wasn't.
And the soundtrack was fantastic. I loved the soundtrack. What I liked about the soundtrack is how it extended into just the general music cues. Where again, like a lot of shows, you have like a dramatic scene and you would get that like dark synthy kind of just like tones. Whereas in here, it would go into like a jazz like rhythm or like an R&B kind of like rhythm for the same type of event. You know, somebody dead, but instead it's like an R&B type of thing, and it's just like the kind of like feeling that it gives the whole show is just very. It's definitely different, and it's very just engaging, and yeah, great impressions. I did post on social media that I think that every episode of the show is better than every Marvel movie has been since like Spider-Man 2, and I stand by that. For all like the nitpicks of the show, like you could just tear apart like entire movies and projects that based on those like issues that I've had. This show totally just kind of gets through just characters, on writing, on like the themes that it has the balls to frankly explore that a lot of these other shows and movies like deal in more abstract like terms, you know.
Or don't deal with it
Or
all.
don't deal with it all, yeah. So I'm really looking forward to what they do with this show. I mean, I don't necessarily have that much faith because a lot of these things tend to get ruined in the second season. Or once they do the inevitable crossover between Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Daredevil, and it's going to be awful. We're just going to be fan service every episode.
Why be so pessimistic?
I don't have faith in the world anymore, so,
Man.
you know.
No, I'm going to hold out hope. I think that they're doing very good work with these because they're exploring themes. I don't think that you could. And speaking of Jessica Jones, and it's kind of sad that we didn't do a review of Jessica Jones.
It deserves a review. It's a great show.
But speaking of Jessica Jones,
it didn't land the way that people are.
I don't think that you would ever have a movie. First of all, where you're having a female character as your lead. That's a superhero. She's a superhero. Where you would have these themes of what happens basically when you have like a man controlling your life and who can control anybody's life. But where you have all of this power and you can't determine your own friggin' life. She's basically, they had a show where the main character is a victim of rape and abuse. And she overcomes it, and it's a superhero show, you know?
Yeah.
You would never have that in a movie.
At least, yeah, in our current environment where
it took them X number of years to finally come out with a Wonder Woman movie.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have like any incentive to take risks on the big screen right now, because it's like no matter what movie, as long as it has like a little Marvel sticker at the top of it, it's just going to sell. Like, you know, we've talked about Captain America, World Police. I mean, that sold. The next Avengers is going to sell just like the last one. And it's just, all they're doing is just regurgitating the same, like, here's a new hero, and here's their dark past, and now they're going to like solve the villain. When you can
make money without any deeper sort of meaning or impression to the movie, then obviously you're going to keep doing that because it's easy. You know?
It is easy.
You switch out the characters, and that's all you have to do. You just make the same movie and over again. The great thing about what Netflix is doing is not only do they have the time, the networks that are doing these shows, they're doing, you know, what are they? Gotham and that the Flash show and the show with Supergirl.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing.
Just fan service.
But Netflix is saying, we want to have something a little bit deeper. We want to give you a little bit more meat. And they've done that.
So far, so good, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, they're still... This machine is just starting to roll out because, yeah, we're getting Punisher, we're getting Iron Fist.
I'm waiting on that.
I don't know what I'm waiting on. I don't know if I'm waiting on any of them, honestly, because I'm just ready. Like, any second, they're going to drop a show and it's just going to be, like, really by the numbers, just so stupid. Because
I don't know, man. I think you need to let that pessimism go, because Netflix so far is doing God's work. Like, they're out here producing, you know, consistently good. It might not be great all of the time, but it's consistently good content.
It's good, but... Again, like, eventually everyone reaches a level of comfort. And it's like, what do you do out of that comfort? And a lot of players in this game
HBO has been airing shows for how many years now?
Yeah.
Like 20, 30 years?
True.
Their stuff is consistently, that's why they say it's HBO. It's consistently good, if not great stuff.
Again, I
wouldn't expect any less of Netflix.
I would. And... Honestly, it's not that hard if you think about it, because Netflix did give a huge contract to none other than Adam Sandler to push several movies onto the platform that are exclusive to the platform. And Netflix, Netflix has those money-making sensibilities the same way everyone else does. Like, is Netflix going to
if it hurts
be
them,
able
that's the
to
thing.
say no to like something
An
like
algorithm?
another Adam Sandler thing? I don't know.
Are they going to be able to say no to the algorithm? 'Cause
Yeah,
the
their
thing is
algorithm knows a lot better
than they do. If it can make them
yeah.
money, I know that they'll do it. But it was the same thing with House of Cards from England has been viewed a lot.
Yeah,
and people seem to be viewing a lot of movies with Kevin Spacey in it. Maybe we should put them together. And also they're viewing a lot of things with what's his face.
But look how that like went. House of Cards went for 2 good seasons, not great seasons, just like good. Like it's a really fun watch. Their last stuff has been like a lot worse, a lot less interesting, a lot more filler content. I'm not putting it past. I mean, this new Daredevil season, we didn't review it, but it wasn't as good as the first one.
No. But sometimes it just happens.
And the first one ended on like a very kind of like rushed, felt like incomplete. Like on that note, I still remember it. I was just like, wow, this show was great except for last episode. Luke Cage, actually, last episode, like I said, they let a lot of things go for the next season on technicalities and very ass-pulley maneuvers by the writers.
I think it's like glass half empty, glass half full thing.
Yeah, of course. But you know what I mean? Like, I really hope.
Yeah.
I really hope that Netflix can maintain that level of quality, or at least like a serviceable amount of it. But anything can happen. So, could be the next HBO, could be the next ABC. So,
man,
we'll see.
Well, my impressions, honestly, is that if you haven't seen Luke Cage, please go see it.
Yeah,
it's a really good show. You should
see Luke Cage. You should see Luke Cage and tell Netflix what you like, because hopefully they'll make more of Luke Cage and less of Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening, you guys. You know the drill. Like, follow, repost, subscribe.
If you want.
Email.
Do that. Do that if you feel it.
Call us. Leave us hate mail if you can find our number, which we won't leave.
No, leave that for yourself.
Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your family, tell your grandma.
Definitely tell your grandma.
Tell your dogs.
Definitely tell your dogs.
All right, thanks a lot, you guys.
Bye, guys.
Till next time. Yeah.